Hello dear sinceres, and welcome to my channel. On this video today we're going to talk about the lunar eclipse that is taking place on the 8th of November and is now turned for a lunar eclipse in Taurus. And so the moon will be in exaltation but having a full moon aspect with the sun. And full moons are usually oppositions. And we will also have this lunar eclipse conjuncting Uranus and the North Node. On the other hand, we have the Sun conjuncting Venus and Mercury cazimi, and also the South Node. Therefore, the Moon is also opposing these planets. On top of that, we will also have Saturn squaring almost in exact opposition this eclipse, so squaring the Moon and Uranus and the North Node. Mars is retrograde in Gemini and Jupiter is retrograde in Pisces at 29 degrees. And the image that comes to mind is that of street gangs kind of going against each other, kind of facing each other, different gangs coming from every corner, and that tension that is escalating. And so this lunar eclipse, though the moon is in the most stable position it could ever be because it's Taurus, it will have the light that she's receiving from the sun, that she normally reflects from the sun, being shadowed by the earth. So momentarily it will look to us from the earth perspective like a red-blooded moon on the sky. Eclipses mark periods of profound change and transformation, especially when they happen in the angles for us or when they are transiting certain elements or placements in our own chart. And so there's space there for a lot of change and transformation, and things never really stay the same. For this eclipse, Uranus has also been in Taurus already for a few years, causing a lot of change, a lot of disruption. Right now is in retrograde motion, which adds to it to be a little slightly more out of the ordinary. And so the lunar eclipse is having all of these effects intensified. And with the Saturn square, which is kind of the final time that Saturn is making an almost exact aspect since early 2021, and also added by the fact that we also have retrograde Mars ruled Scorpio Venus, the dispositor of this eclipse, the dispositor of the moon in Taurus, we will also are likely to see some shifts in the financial system, agriculture, on farming, on the material level. So resources also from oil, gas, water, because we have Jupiter 29 degrees in Pisces at the time of this lunar eclipse, perhaps some heavy rain, and also some actions through the governmental power. So eclipses mark periods of profound change and transformation, whether it's within us, whether it's in our society. And they do that even more, especially when they happen for us personally in the angles. So the 1st, the 4th, the 7th, and the 10th house. Or when they are transiting certain aspects in our chart, certain placements in our chart, or making certain aspects. And so they have an even more profound impact on us. And as Uranus has been in Taurus already for a few years, since 2021, causing disruption, and it's also in retrograde motion, when the planet is in retrograde motion, it tends to be a little bit more out of the ordinary, a little bit more stubborn, a little bit more rebellious as well. Added by the lunar eclipse in Taurus, we will see these effects of Uranus that has been there for a while intensified. And then with the Saturn square, which will be the final time when it will be making an almost exact aspect to Uranus since 2021, when it started to do this kind of square dance with Uranus, we're going to see a lot of shifts, a lot of changes. And we also have the dispositor of the full moon, which is a Venus ruled by Mars in retrograde, and it's opposing the moon, this Venus. And so we can expect some shifts and changes and shakeups in the financial system, agriculture, on farming, on the material level. And even because Jupiter is making a 29-degree retrograde motion in Pisces currently, we're might see as well some changes, some hike in price oils, some changes, some flooding, and also because we have the Saturn square, we might see some kind of actions from the governmental powers, added by also mental stress disruption by Scorpio Mercury. So Mercury is going to be cazimi with the Sun at the moment of this eclipse, and it's like when you have a cazimi planet, it's occupying the seat of the king, the seat of the Sun, the heart of the Sun. And when you have a cazimi Mercury, what it might do, it might bring some insights, some realizations, and because it's in Scorpio, we might have this more capacity to have more clarity, to look more inside ourselves, more into our shadow, to penetrate the deep collective psyche of the collective, or ourselves, and even potentially it can influence us to look at ourselves, to our own shadow, to our own demons without fear, and realize what that shadow means for us, to analyze it, and really Mercury pushing us to this more insightful and deep transformation of our consciousness and perspective. Eclipses happen by their closeness to the nodes. So when you have the Sun and the Moon doing some kind of conjunction to the South Node or the North Node, and we are talking about this axis of North and South Node is the axis of the past and the future, is a karmic kind of axis, karmic signatures of moving from the past to the future, of letting the old stuff go and see what we are moving towards to, letting go of what doesn't serve us, to embrace the future, to embrace the new, to kind of get out of our comfort zones, to the unknown, to adopt new ways of thinking and being. We also have Uranus conjuncting this eclipse, and is also pointing towards the future, because Uranus, the Lord of the sky, he has been doing a lot of shaking up. When Uranus is in an earth element, it tends to cause some earthquakes, and so is doing some earthquakes in our system of security, demanding for change, saying it's time for things to shift, to change, to go into the future, to let go of the past, what has been already, to let go of what doesn't serve us. It's time to evolve, to grow, to see things through a much different perspective. And it's in Taurus. So it's all about seeing the way we have been living so far, connected to our resources, connected to our planet, connected to our financial system, to our security, how we've been dealing with it, connected to how we treat the planet, how we treat the environment. Even though there may be some people who think that the environment is okay or not, we can see sometimes when you look in some rivers how polluted they are. So we need to treat our earth well, to look at our values, to redefine what really matters to us, to change our usual ways of living, our habits, how we use our resources. And so the intensification of this lunar eclipse is like we have peaked a height of a crescendo that has been happening for a long period of time, and we are now sustaining this suspense. It's like those moments where we know something extreme is about to happen, but we don't know exactly what it is, and all we can do is really hold our breath, and we are biting our nails, not knowing what's going to happen next. We kind of grab to the seat, just really tense and in this state of like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And is this almost like we are in a movie theater, but this is more what's happening to us in the collective. And that's in the point we are right now, because the North Node is opening the portal towards the future. And Uranus is sending earthquakes and shaking all of our foundations, all that we used to know, all that we were so accustomed to, our way of life is shaking up all the structures that we thought were about our security, our safety, our predictability of tomorrow. Like, oh, you just work your life and you get a mortgage and you buy a house and you have kids. All of this is being shaken up. And although it seems really terrible from a Taurian point of view, from a Scorpio point of view, and I personally have a strong Scorpio influence, it is actually wonderful. Because Scorpio loves change, loves transformation, and loves the truth, loves authenticity, loves depth, and wants the truth, wants the deepest, most authentic truth it can get. It does not tolerate stagnation. And so when it reaches a point of stagnation, it will shake everything up. And Uranus, it gets exalted in the sign of Scorpio exactly because of that. Because Uranus has this characteristic of shaking up, wanting transformation, wanting to change things, wanting things to be authentic. And that is what it seeks. And Scorpio, being the house where the South Node is, where the Sun is going to be doing this opposition to the Moon, is kind of acting a bit as a toilet flush, as a waste system that is letting all of the stuff that does not serve us anymore, all of the past that has been kind of keeping us stuck in a life system, in a lifestyle that does not serve us anymore, and that we are grabbed onto, that we cannot let go. The Scorpio South Node is kind of putting it all to the waste, just flush it out, let it go, putting it down the solar system, into the void, and taking all that is superficial, all that doesn't serve us anymore, all the lies, all the secrets, all the things that we have been having in our lives that really don't make any sense anymore. And that the Taurus side of us is kind of so attached to and so grabbed and doesn't want to let go because it's the safety, is knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. The Scorpio is telling, let go. You don't need this anymore. You need something that's more truthful. You need to reach the essence of yourself. You need to look at the truth. You need to let go of your beautiful lies, your beautiful seductive demons, the things that keep you in child state, that keep you infantile, because we are afraid of the future, because we want to be in our comfort zone. And so we stagnate. We are not able to move on and to grow. And then we have our dear Uncle Saturn. I like to call it Uncle Saturn, squaring because it's acting as the authority in the world, in the collective, and its role is to add to this crescendo, to catalyze the growth. You know, it's kind of like the system of good cop, bad cop. And so Saturn is almost always the bad cop, and he acts like either you do it the good way or you do it the bad way. So he's squeezing us, he's adding to this pressure of the collective, to all the situation. And if from a point of view of what's happening in the world, it seems to be coming from governmental authorities and world authorities and people in high places, which are kind of implementing plans that are stifling humanity's freedom. And Moon represents the public, and Uranus represents the freedom. And so we are kind of moving in towards this kind of tense moment of people versus the government versus the authority. But what it's really doing is shaking up, to wake up, to see how far it can really move us into a prison and how long can we take it. When are we finally going to wake up? Because Saturn is actually going to move into Pisces next year. And Pisces is all about the divine consciousness. It's all about being benevolent, caring sign. It is a sign that really wants us to evolve to a much higher level of consciousness. And that's where Saturn is going to go. But there's a shadow side as well of Pisces, where if we remember, the era of Pisces had a lot of killing, a lot of death, a lot of murdering of nations and a lot of colonies and people in the name of God. And that's the dark side of Pisces, is the extreme, is the fanaticism. And Saturn can either manifest this higher level or his lower level depending on our level of maturity. Because all Saturn really wants from us is maturity. So are we either going to grow up the hard way through pain and tears, or are we going to finally evolve into the consciousness jump and learn how to live together? And here the mental stress that is being added with Mercury in Scorpio, even though it's in Cazimi, and you have the Saturn then squaring the moon and squaring the sun and Mercury. And so we also have the Mercury side of things adding to the stress, to the mental stress, because when Mercury is in Scorpio, it goes in a little bit in a state of crisis, a little bit in a state of mental stress. And then we might be feeling this a lot in the collective aspect. When you have Mercury kind of opposing the moon, which is the case here because it's conjuncting the sun, there is this element of stress, of not feeling so stable mentally. And also Venus in Scorpio is not so much of a happy girl because she tends to be a little bit rebellious here. And she's being influenced by a Mars that rules Scorpio. And these two, when you have this kind of Martian Venus elements, they can bring a little bit of war, conflict between some countries, people. So Jupiter at 29 degrees conjuncting Neptune and both of them squaring Mars are not really the most helpful in this lunar eclipse. We can see floods, heavy rain, and in some countries we can see some kind of spike in the price of the oil again, some flooding happening. We can see perhaps even an escalation online of arguments, of people arguing about things, and sometimes things that are kind of a bit silly. We may see information that is not really clear. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of cloudiness, lots of passive aggression, difficulty in finding direction and clarity of action, where to go, what to do. People will be much more in their own mind, in their own thoughts, than actually doing and taking action actively, proactively, but much more kind of living in their kind of thinking side of things. They're more aggressive in their mind, in their thinking, in their words. So there can be words coming out of the blue without people thinking what they're saying, without us thinking what we're saying, and we might have to kind of take them back or regret what we said. Venus is also trining Jupiter in the eclipse, though it is a very, very wide trine. And even though it's wide, it can aid a little bit still with our finances, with the outlook in our perspective of things and our growth, to soften things up a bit and make them more easy. Now, today is bonfire day that I'm making this filming, so if you hear a lot of things out there, it's just really the bonfire fireworks. We also have Lilith and Pallas Athena conjuncting together in Cancer, and they are, both of them, sextiling and trining the lunar eclipse. And so these two, at the Lilith side of things, talks about our temptations, our addictions, vices, and in the part of Pallas Athena talks about defending what we believe in, defending social people in the social level, doing some social justice, trying to get things to be more fair, but more in the protective side of those who don't have that protection or strength to fight for their rights. So with these two together, there can be a lot of secrets that we might come to hear about that then will propel us to fight for something we feel to be an injustice. Whether that's defending women and children and families, perhaps from banks who kind of decide to take some difficult measure that harms the families and the children, or maybe part of the government, we have these two actually making an opposition to Pluto. Pluto represents the government, but also what's hiding from plain sight. And so it can be something like that, that we might hear about and then we decide, oh, I'm going to do something about this. I want to fight about this. I want to defend those who can't and help them. Lilith is also conjuncting the star Pollux, which is the twin of the South. It's called the twin of the South and is connected to the Castor and Pollux twin mythos. And so this star has more of a margin characteristics. And so through this lunar eclipse, the way it might influence it is that we might see some more violence happening, that could happen more out of impulse, addiction, or succumbing to the shadow side of things. And we also have the fixed stars Zubenel Janubi, I believe I'm saying it correctly, I could be mispronouncing it, and Zubenel Shimali. And these two stars are associated with the scales of Libra, but also have been associated by astrologers to the claws of Scorpio. You have Libra, Scorpio are very close constellations of the zodiac, so they can be associated with both. So the first Zubenel Janubi is conjuncting the sun of this eclipse, conjuncting the sun and Mercury. Unfortunately, this Zubenel Janubi star is considered a malefic star, malefic influence, that is connected to Mars, to Saturn, and it means the insufficient prince, and is described as bold, cruel, is connected to lies, to losses, to poverty. And so this is, as this is conjuncting the solar eclipse, as this is conjuncting the lunar eclipse on the side of the sun, but also Mercury Cazimi, it might be indicative that this eclipse might bring some losses to some people, might bring some financial level of some losses on the financial level, or even in terms of reputation, or in terms of what they were used to, their wealth. And can also be emphasizing the theme of war, because this star is connected to that as well. The other star, Zubenel Shimali, meaning the full prince, is the opposite of the other one, is of a benefic nature, of the Jupiterian and Mercury nature, and is conjuncting Venus. And so it's kind of giving Venus that kind of very abundant, happy, loving, positive, because Venus is a benefic planet. So it's giving a little bit of our own nature back. It has kind of a more thoughtful, religious, and spiritual, philosophical nature, and it can also give an immortal name to someone. So someone may get some legacy through time, some kind of a title that lasts through the ages. Also add to the abundance, to luck, to good fortune. And since these stars are connected to the planets that are somehow involved in this lunar eclipse, we can see that perhaps, and also because they're connected to the scales of Libra, one up, one down, so we might see that maybe some people might have some losses, but other people might actually come out really well of this situation with more dignity, with more beauty, with more grace, with spiritual wealth. Use their spiritual wealth, use their clarity of thought and mind. And I think that's what it means. The more people have the spiritual wealth, clarity of thought and mind, and connect to that wealth, they will come out of whatever situation this lunar eclipse brings us really well. The South Node is conjuncting the star Alphecca, which is connected to Venus and Mercury energies. And it talks about meanings of idealism, psychic powers, beauty, refinement, intelligence, honor, dignity, artistic ability. And it's kind of something that is really positive here for the South Node, which the South Node talks about the past and the things that we need to let go, but not necessarily that we need to let go of these things, But there's a shadow side to this star as well, which has some hedonistic characteristics and kind of abusing of pleasure, abusing of this very pleasurable side of Venus tends to have. Also can, in connection to certain planets, be associated with death and infectious diseases. In Vedic astrology, South Node or Ketu tends to have a much more positive connotation, one that usually confers more spirituality and knowledge, because this is something of value and considered valuable and wealthy in the East, at least it used to be in the past. It's kind of an awakening of sorts, of spiritual awakening of the soul, of the spirit. But in Western astrology, the South Node, Ketu, has more of a negative connotation because it's something that represents a loss of some kind. It's something that we need to depart from, to let go. And it's not that they necessarily contradict one another, because being able to let go in the East is something that emphasizes spirituality in the East, to be able to have the capacity to be detached. And the South Node in Scorpio is one that really asks us to let go, so we can find the beauty of the truth of our essence, of who we really are. We can find a much deeper wealth that is really meaningful, that means something, that is not something that is going to die, that is beyond, that is eternal, that is beyond just the pure materialistic society. Our mentality in the West has been for the past millennia very materialistic, very focused only on the material, and God and divinity is kind of out of fashion, or is losing its kind of influence, or is kind of put somewhere in the corner. And our main focus has been in the West, mostly material, where we kind of remain unaware of our spiritual nature, of ourselves. We just see ourselves as mere mortals living one life. And so how I see the star is that it's seeking to refine us, to shape us into much more, to someone more refined, more intelligent, that sees with more depth, sees with more profundity what really matters, what really, really is important, and comes from that beauty from within. And so during this eclipse, my recommendation is that to take a pause, to go into nature, to reconnect with something that's more natural, a more natural way of living, a more natural way of being, to listen to some calm music, maybe perhaps classical music, do some Reiki, align your energies, take some time to slow down, to reflect, to calm your emotions with meditation, with positivity. Try to stay away from online arguing, discussions, or even being too much on social media. Think of ways of plans where you can learn to be more self-sufficient, to be more capable of sustaining yourself, sustainability for yourself, of having some connection to planting perhaps your own food, being more frugal and still having fun, ways of getting abundance, which doesn't always mean that it is about money or it's about finances. It can be abundance of love, abundance of happiness, abundance of good emotions, good feelings, friendships. The things that really, really, truly matter to you, think about what those truly are. What do you really live for? What truly makes you happy? Can you have more simplicity in your life and be more happier? Do some forest bathing, walk with your barefoot on the ground, on the dirt, reconnect to the earth, talk to the earth, feel the earth's heart, go to a forest, to a woodland, to the countryside. Perhaps you also might want to dive more into learning things about farming or about planting food, about off-grid life, about slow living, finding what's truly, truly essential in life, in your life. Also, this lunar eclipse is a good opportunity to learn about your energy. How can you boost your energy? How can you feel energized? what makes you waste energy? What is there robbing your energy and taking it away and eating it up? How can you increase your energy frequency and be more connected to your inner being, to yourself, to the planet, to Gaia, to the divine, to Uranus? Taurus is the earthly feminine. The moon being in Taurus is actually talking to us about Gaia, is evoking Gaia here, the earth mother, and the earth goddess, which was married to Uranus, the sky god, the sky father. And so they were, in mythos, in mythology, the original gods who gave origin to all the pantheon of gods later. And as mentioned, they are conjuncting during this eclipse. They are both conjuncting during this eclipse. So what is your connection to the planet, to Gaia, to Mother Earth? And what is your connection to heaven, to sky, to God, to the divinity, to a higher perspective? To what is your connection to humanity on this planet that is treating the planet with reverence, with honor, with wonder, and that is looking towards the sky, towards the future, with reverence, with respect, with good expectation, with the desire to do more, be more, grow, and to expand? What are you ready to let go? What are you ready to bring in to your life, the new shift in your perspective, in your consciousness? And so that's it, dear sinceres. I hope that you enjoyed this look into this lunar eclipse from my analysis. I hope this eclipse is really good for you, that it brings you some good shifts, good perspectives, new learnings, new things, and that is a positive influence for your life, and also that the cosmos and the stars be with you.